Welcome back to another video. My name's Jack from Decloak Music, and today I'm going to be going into a little bit of detail about the clip view and how we can start to take a sample and turn it into something different just using what's inside of the clip view. So for those who don't know, the clip view, well, there's two types. We've got the MIDI clip view and we've got the audio clip view. Today we're going to be working with audios. It's a follow-up from my last video where I just kind of showed how we can play with field recordings and use them in our tracks just to add atmosphere. But today we're going to go into a little bit deeper. We're going to go use the same Earth Sonic project samples. I'm just going to take them and just load them into a audio track. And the clip view is this. So if you double click on any of the samples that you load in, it's going to automatically take you to this left hand tab at the bottom. Right hand one where all your devices go, and the left hand one is the clip view. Now on an audio clip, it shows us the waveform. Shows us whatever clip you are selected on, it's going to show you waveform for that given sample in. Now what we're going to do here is we're just going to go through the most important part of this section here on the left, and we're going to just go kind of look at what we can do inside of this section, both in the sample view, and we'll be touching on this envelopes tab as well. So this is definitely a lesson for beginners, but if you're quite new to Ableton and you've not really explored this yet, this is definitely going to be useful, but it's going to lay the ground for some lessons that are going to be coming, some videos that I've got in the pipeline which use this exclusively to make an entire track. So let's go into what we can do here. Now again, like I say, I'm using the Earth Sonic samples. If you don't know how to get these, go check out my last video on this where I basically just talk about where we can get these from and how to load them in. So if you are very new to Ableton and you're not sure how to do that, the other video will cover all that for you. And yeah, let's just press play. Let's turn the volume down a touch. So what we're looking at here then, we can see the play bar moving across the waveform. And currently, in its current mode, let's just go have a look at this clip here. We can see here that this loop bar is off. Now, depending on the sample that you load in, sometimes this loop bar will be turned on, but other times it will be turned off. Now, it does exactly what it says. It just loops the clip. And when I turn that loop on, we can actually see here at the top the loop brackets. Now, we can see below where it says loop, the length of the loop brackets. So currently, if I press play again, it's going to loop one bar and send it back again. I can change this as however long I want, 4 bars. Or I can manually adjust that. So that's your loop bar. Quite straightforward. It allows the loop to continuously keep playing and repeat itself once it reaches the end. Now, depending on what type of sound you're trying to extract from your samples, or what type of sample that you're using in the first place, your choice of having loop on will really depend on the sound and what the purpose of that sound is. Now, let's go and listen to a few different sounds what we've got here. Actually, just loop this around this section. I'm gonna go make some sort of drone or something out of this sort of harmonics. So how can we turn this bird song into harmonics? Now, before I go into the rest of this section here, I'm gonna jump down to the audio tab. Now, the audio tab is where we have most control over the manipulation of a sample. We've first of all got the warp. Okay, now warping is the process where Ableton tries to match the BPM of this sample to whatever the BPM is up here, your project BPM. Now you can see mine's quite low at the moment. It's at 61.22, and that's because Ableton, at least in Ableton 12, the first sample you play, if you've not already set a BPM up here, the very first sample will dictate the project BPM. So I want to change that. I'm going to go pretty pacey with this. Let's go like 170. Let's see what we can do. Let's just pretend we're making something in the realms of jungle drum and bass. Obviously, feel free to experiment with this. I'm just setting myself a bit of a challenge because it's this BPM here, down here where it says 61.22 BPM. That is the clip BPM. Now, you might be thinking, well, how does this sample have a BPM? There's no beats there, beats per minute, right? So Ableton just gives it a good shot, all right? It tries to work out, it tries to do its analysis, and it tries to dictate a BPM to every single sample, whether or not that's useful or not. But what this now means is that as I've upped the BPM over here so much, everything is going to be playing much faster than we heard it the first time. Turn the warp off. That's the original. With the warp on, we can see the line starts moving along. We'll probably hear it more on this one. Warp off. Now let's warp it at this BPM of 170. You can see moving along. Everything is much quicker. Okay, because just like anyone who's coming from a DJ background will understand that you have a track and the BPM of that track's 130, but you're playing at 150, it's going to play the track much quicker. Now, there are other effects of that if you come from a record background, and there are settings on the CDJ as well to lock the tempo or lock the pitch when you up the tempo. But normally if we increase the speed of something, it also increases the pitch. Now, there are ways to emulate that inside of this section here. And that's probably a good segue to move on to exactly what the different types of warp mode are. So warping, in a nutshell, if you have warping on, it will allow you to do things like loop. Okay? If you turn warp off, you cannot loop the sample. Okay? It won't let you do it. It needs to be warped in order for Ableton to work out how to set a loop. So that's one benefit to having it on. The only benefit to having it off is that if you want the absolute most natural sound of the recording, that's the only time you'd really have warp off. So it has its purposes, but if you want to start really messing with the sample, having warp on lends itself a little bit more to editing and messing around with the sample, turn it into something a little bit different, which is what we're doing today. So I've got the warp on. Now, I have these warp modes, okay? I'm not going to go into an awful amount of detail about these. However, it's quite straightforward. This is what you are trying, well, this is what you are assigning to this sample for Ableton to say, hey, okay, in this case, this sample consists of beats. So let's try to preserve the beat structure and the beats of this sample. Now, this isn't beats, okay? So that's probably not the best one to use. Complex and Complex Pro will give you as close to the natural or unwarped sound as possible. Tones is for literal pure tones. So piano or anything that has got tone to it is good for tones. Texture's best for things like drones and any kind of textural elements of your track that you might add in there. And then repitch acts just like a turntable would. So on repitch mode, I'm playing at 196. Well, the sample's at 196, but I'm actually playing at 170, so I'm almost playing it twice as fast now. You can hear that the pitch has gone up. Let's bring the BPM down and listen to how it changes it. And at 27 BPM, I've slowed the track right down, and now it's repitched it downwards. That's only an effect of the repitch. Turn it back to beats, and we lose that. So let's drop back to 170 again. So how do I overcome that? What if I actually want this sound, these birds, to be playing exactly the same BPM, or as close to the same BPM as I had when I was down, much lower BPM on my master. How can I actually change that? So if you actually press ×2, that is doubled the BPM value. So now it's much closer. It's not, you don't need it to be exactly the same BPM. It's a bird song, but it's brought the BPM, doubled the BPM, and now it sounds more like it did before I doubled my BPM up. Remember, it was down at like 68 or something. So now I'm up at 172. This is a really quick way to essentially double the BPM. Now, people get confused with this. They think that if you press ×2, you're going to double the speed of the sample. That's not the case. As we said before, the speed of the track is dictated purely by the master. So if this is higher, if this is a higher number, a higher BPM than what you're running at, technically it's going to be playing slower. So let's double it again. You can hear these artifacts coming now. It doesn't quite sound so natural anymore, but it's definitely stretched it twice as long now. Okay, that same loop is playing over double the time. That's why we're hearing it sound so much slower. Go even more extreme, the BPM. Now we'll play the sample. Ableton is treating this as a sample at 770 BPM, but we're only playing at 172, so we're playing it much slower than the sample trying to play. Okay, so what that is, or should be playing. So that is a really quick way. Go back to stretch your samples and just to start exploring them. Now, as we're speaking about that, I think it's a good time to just quickly give a quick listen to these. So we heard what 770 sounded like with beats. Let's try it with tones. Play around the grain size. Okay, interesting. Texture. See, this is really good for sound design stuff. And Complex Pro, Complex, and Beats. Complex Pro, the smoother result. Beats, again, it's trying to analyze it like beats, so you're going to get that kind of cutoff with the transient. So, there we go. So, a little bit of an introduction to what warping is, the correlation between BPM and BPM of the clip and BPM of the track, how that affects it, and also just a quick look at some of the different modes you can choose while you are warping. Now, each one lends itself to, well, beats lends itself to beats, tones and textures to more drony or harmonic sounds. If you're trying to kind of create some sort of textures and soundscapes, really good for that. Repitch will just treat it exactly what happens when you increase or decrease the pitch of a record. It goes higher pitch when you speed it up, or you slow it down, it drops in pitch. And then you've got Complex and Complex Pro, which is kind of an attempt at making it sound as natural as possible, but when warped. So that's that section covered. Okay, so next we'll go look at pitch. The parameter here is quite easy to understand, obviously, but it's definitely one of the first things I go to when I'm trying to explore possibilities of turning one sample into different. So let's just listen. We've got the bird song, okay? Double that, just make right speed. And we're going to go change it to, let's go change it to texture. Now you can see here that I'm actually quite low on the pitch, and I can go this far. is very low. But if you want it to go lower, there is a little shortcut to do here. Okay. So delete that one out. I'm going to put this over here. Okay, on its own channel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click at the top and click bounce track in place. What it's going to do, it's going to take any changes that I've done here and just bake them into a new copy, or well, bake them into the same sample. It doesn't create a copy, so that this is actually going to be back to 0, but it's actually going to be playing it as we're hearing now. So it's a nice little trick that's available in 12. So yeah, new in 12. As you can see, when I press play on that, it's original, but what does that mean? It means I can go further down. So it gives you that more range by doing that. Let's go play again. Let's change it texture and see what out of this. Loop a little bit. Now, you can hear that click. That click is just becoming because of the difference from the start of the waveform to the end of it. And Ableton has this little fade button here, which actually adds 4 milliseconds before and after. Although it doesn't get rid of it, it's much less noticeable. And that's your fade button. Let's click reverse on this. Cool. Alright, okay. So pitch, quite self-explanatory. Really good way to explore. We've turned what was a bird song into kind of like a bassy drone at the moment. Let's go increase the gain. And now the gain here, this is the clip gain. Okay, you've got your channel gain, okay, and you've got your track gain, sorry, and you've got your clip gain. So when you increase this, it actually increases, see the waveform get bigger. So I like this. Let's just duplicate that clip. Save it. Let's go try and look at what else we've got in here, because this is what I also recommend doing. You've got a long loop like this that you're playing with, just worth exploring what's there. Okay. Let's see if we can bring in a break. Interesting. So if I'm happy with the time. Back. Kind of lost the groove a bit there. Yeah. Okay, cool. Right, let's go see what else we can do. And remember, I'm only trying to focus on this section here. What we can do in the audio clip view. So already quite a lot, but there is more. Oh my god, that kind of just worked. But I do want to kind of change this a little bit. Okay, sometimes it just works. That shut me up for a second. Well, I'll go move that. Keep that there. Duplicate the whole channel. Okay. Just means I know I've only got this on it, but I want to keep that playing. Sometimes it's good just to keep as much music playing while you kind of have ideas come to you. Something that I've found over the years. I like to work in the session view, at least at the start of the track, while I work out my idea. So let's go look at this again. Let's go look at that beat. Try reverse it. Okay. Cool. Let's solo that so we can hear it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the transient preserve on the transients here. So the transient is this, okay? Each little spike of a waveform we call a transient. And in the beats mode, and it's only in the beats mode, you can actually shape these. Now, we're going to use this mode here. And what that basically means is that this becomes a gate, okay? So if we close it, okay, if we make this figure lower, only the very start of the transient, like 100%, every transient's playing. Only 50%, so we're not actually hearing the full tail of hearing the very start. So it is a way to tighten up. Okay, probably a good time now. So let's talk about warping. Okay, so we've talked about the warp mode, but once upon a time, warping was something you had to do yourself. And warp markers, okay, which are kind of like anchors, these hold the time of wherever they are placed. So what does that mean exactly? So if I was to move this one, everything to the left of this one up to this neighbor here is going to either stretch or be compressed, depending which way I move it. And likewise, everything to the right of it is either stretched or compressed, depending on the movement. And we had to basically match up beats, for example, perfectly to the grid. If we wanted, for example, to take a very out of sync, as far as your track's concerned, drum loop, you brought in a live drum loop and it's just not quite fitting with your overall track, can come in and you can manipulate these accordingly. Now, in later versions of Ableton, this has become very, very good. All right, it's just you can drop in most things now, and Ableton will do the job of matching, okay, whatever BPM you've got. But sometimes you want to come and you'll still want to do manual adjustment. So I'm not going to go into loads more detail. I just wanted to kind of cover what manual warping is and how it's done. You can actually create as many of these warp markers as possible if you don't want to kind of move as much. What we're going to do here is we're going to actually just do a very simple trick of quantizing. Now, let's just listen to this one. I'm going to go move this one over because I did have a little listen before and it's kind of like a cicada, but very kind of rhythmical. You'll see what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just highlight the whole thing first of all. Press Command and A. I'm going to zoom in on my resolution. Click Quantize. And as you can see, when I clicked Quantize, right click Quantize, it's actually created a load more warp markers. Mixed results normally on sounds like this, but you can normally pick out something that works. Turn it down a bit. Play around the pitch, let's try and repitch it. Actually, you know what? I think we're going to same trick. Add some reverb. Add a bit of reverb. Okay, comical, but kind of showing what I wanted to show here. That you can do a lot and you can find a lot of inspiration by playing around with just these things. Okay, your loops, your warp modes, your pitch, your reverse, can all turn what was a load of just animal noises into something that can be rhythmical, harmonic, tonal, atmospheric. So much can be done just understanding this area here. So now let's go take a look at the third and final area of this clip view for the sample. So audio clip view. Let's go have a look at the final one. We've looked at sample, okay, which is this page here where we can do all the warping. We've looked at all the different parameters we can play around with on the left hand side, or at least as far as clip and audio is concerned. There are more here, but for today's session, these are the two that are going to be most useful as far as sound design is concerned. And there is a third one, and that's called envelopes. Now, envelopes can be accessed on 12 by clicking on the tab here. If you're on 11 or anything earlier than that, you'll find the envelopes tab is located like one of these. So it's down here. But what is shown is exactly the same. It's just presented differently in 12. Now, first of all, what is an envelope? So an envelope is something that we can change, a parameter that we can change, and the envelope describes how does that parameter change over time. So let me give you an example here. Let's go to a mixer and let's choose the parameter. So the left hand tab here will allow you to access the device. So in this case it's the mixer, and for those who don't know, this is the mixer here. It has the volume fader, it has the on off button, it has the panning, it has the sends, and I'm going to go and choose volume. Okay, now that's going to automate. If I change this red line here, you can see it's steady going across. That means that this is not moving currently. But if I was to go and create a node by just double clicking or single clicking, sorry, anywhere on this line, I can now move this. So what's going to happen is we're going to start seeing this fader drop down as this line goes down. And you can see here that it's got a red dot next to it. If you see a red dot next to anything on Ableton, it means that there is some sort of automation happening. Now, automation is the word we use for this process. I am automating the volume fader to come down. So automation is the process, and we automate by playing with the envelope. So let's push play. And we can see that that's now moving. Now, personally, I would never automate the fader of a channel for reasons I won't go into this session, but there is another way which we can automate volume using audio, and that's in the clip view. So the clip is this, okay? Remember, each one of these is a clip. Any automation that I do inside of this clip has nothing to do with this clip. As you can see, I've created some automation here, okay? Just to show you that this one and this one are not the same. I'm looking at gain, and I'm looking at gain. Now, gain is another word for volume, if you're unaware. So I can automate the volume inside of the clip, which is this here, okay? So this is the volume meter for the overall channel, or the track. This is a volume automation or volume fade for the clip itself. We looked at it before, how it literally physically moves the size of the waveform. So if I'm playing around with the automation here, I can automate this. We can see it. There is automation indicator there showing that the automation is taking place. I can just simply cut, because at the moment this clip's at 100% volume. Okay, it's playing the clip in its full volume. This is how it will be by default on all clips that you create, but I can turn it down to 0%. So this is silence down here. Go take out some of these. Okay, automating the clip volume to slice bits out that I don't want. Makes it a little less busy. Makes it a little less busy. So, what else can we automate? Well, let's see what other parameters are on the clip. We can do transposition, which is another word for pitch. Okay. Or up. So a pretty interesting way. I'm turning this into something completely different now, a little bit more melodic. Okay, decide where you want it, and there you go. We can do transposition, we can re-pitch it. What else can we do? Well, depending on what you have got loaded onto this track, so for example, if you've got a load of effects here, you would be able to automate them as well. But because I don't, I only have access to the mixer and the clip currently. But even on the clip, there are things I can automate. Maybe I want to add some delay, so that will be this one here. Let's listen to it. But I just wanted that to be on this last one. And you can see it bouncing up now. It's automated. We're just getting that delay on that very last one. Maybe there as well. So there you go. Envelopes. Very, very useful to change stuff. So automation can be applied here. And that allows us to literally add effects, take out volume, re-pitch stuff, change things in this loop to be doing something completely different. So a really powerful part of the clip view is the envelopes, because again, you can hear how much texture you can add and how much variation you can make in each clip based on whatever you do with the envelopes. So hopefully that has been useful to you. Many thanks for following along. This has been a beginner introduction to the audio clips and how we can change things to make things our own. How we can take a sample to make it our own. So if you have any sample packs, rather than just go dropping a sample on, you now know the basic things that we can do to make that our own sample, change it into something that sounds completely different to what you started with. So if this has been useful to you, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps me out, being a new channel, really trying to get to 1,000 followers. Many more videos on this to come. Many more videos on how we can turn a field recording into something completely different. I have a series literally about a launch next week, showing how I made an entire track, pretty much an entire track, just using a single sample, a single one of these clips. So if that interests you, please stay posted, follow me on Instagram, and for those who are interested, I do one-on-one sessions. So if you need a bit more help, you want to go at your own pace with somebody who gets on your level and understands where you are and lays out a path in front of you, check my website out for that. Thank you again for following, and see you in the next one.